Celebrating 49 years on the air, award-winning Farm Week is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, the DOJ announces progress into its investigation of the Big Four meat packers. In Southern Gardening, Eddie Smith says there's more than one way to color up your landscape. In our main feature and encore, one more chance to meet the reigning Mississippi Tree Farmer of the Year. And at a high school, what everyone's calling an epic prank right in the parking lot. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Great to have you with us again here on Farm Week. The Department of Justice still working to crack down on the top four meat packers for allegedly driving up meat prices and shortchanging ranchers. This investigation comes at a tough time as America's cattle herd hits its lowest level in 75 years. Reporter Laurel Bowers has the story.
The Department of Justice held a press conference this week to announce its launch of an investigation into the top four meat packers over possible antitrust violations.
In the beef industry, the big four processors control over 85% of the beef processing market. Multiple plant closures across the country, the current market structure, and high concentration in the industry indicate anti-competitive activity.
The big four meat packers under investigation are Tyson Foods and Cargill Incorporated, both controlled by U.S. owners, and National Beef and JBS, both under Brazilian ownership. The DOJ is investigating possible inflation of consumer prices and suppression of payments to ranchers.
Industry consolidation reduces options for our ranchers looking to sell their cattle. It weakens their negotiating power, and it risks reliance upon a single buyer. As ranchers face fewer options for selling their animals, the Big Four grow stronger and stronger.
The DOJ claims the concentration among the Big Four allows packers to dictate prices. However, industry experts say the picture is far more complicated, pointing out that market consolidation in the packing industry has been roughly unchanged over the past 3 decades.
Packers have been the subject of suspicion and accusations for well over a century by some elements of the cattle industry as well as politicians at various times. And it's ironic in some sense that we're doing this now because packers have lost millions and millions of dollars in the current market environment.
Over the past several years, the cattle industry has been facing persistent drought, high operational costs, and an aging workforce. The shrinking herd is expected to keep beef prices elevated for the foreseeable future.
As of January 1st of this year, we have about 86.2 million head of cattle and calves in America. That is the lowest since the 1950s, and this year we're looking to be slightly down again. In the past decade alone, we've lost over 17% of our cattle ranchers. More than 100,000 ranches across this country are no more.
President Trump signed the executive order to investigate price fixing in the food supply chain late last year. Attorney General Blanche says the DOJ has reviewed more than 3 million documents and contacted hundreds of stakeholders, including ranchers, cattlemen, producers, and processors.
So at a time when packers are losing enormous amounts of money, we're accusing them of manipulating the markets. And frankly, if they were, they're not very good at it because they're still losing millions of dollars.
The American Farm Bureau Federation believes the investigation is a critical step toward uncovering anti-competitive behaviors and market manipulation by the Big Four processors.
An unusually warm spring bringing sweet news to local fruit lovers, pushing the harvest season forward. Reporter Francis Wang takes us to a family-run orchard in Brentwood, California, where the early birds are already picking the best of the crop.
If you start pulling these layers back, and then you can see some fruit in here. down this branch here.
At the Cherry Pit in Brentwood, California, growing cherries is truly a family affair.
The nutrients kind of continue to feed the cherry as opposed to leaving the stem behind.
Yeah, in the water.
Run by husband and wife Laura and Dustin Diorio, their family orchards date back to the 1800s, with several relatives running neighboring farms.
We have our coral varieties over here and our Santina right here.
Cherry growing is a tedious task, and this year weather has been a part of the story. March's record heat hit later blooming varieties hard.
So when it gets too hot, you actually see some of the blooms start to fail or burn up, you might say, dry out.
Luckily, many of the popular varieties were already forming fruit when the heat wave hit. So growers say some of the best cherries have come early this year.
In March, when that heat wave happened, a lot of our later varieties were in bloom. Thankfully, the corals and our early ones the cherries were starting to form, so they weren't as in danger.
Yeah, try one.
Can confirm they taste great too, but picking them with the stem on is a challenge. The Cherry Pit opened one location last weekend and is welcoming pickers to their second orchard starting this weekend.
Thank you.
Families are already taking advantage.
We're ahead by about 10 days or so, and so this is I would describe it as like the peak time for our best cherry.
Just remember, this year's heat pushed the season forward, great for early pickers, but it also means some later fruit won't be there. The early bird really does get the worm, or in this case, the cherry.
So, looking to add some vibrant color to your porch or landscape that can actually survive the brutal summer heat? This week in Southern Gardening, Eddie Smith showcases 3 stunning coleus varieties that thrive in the Mississippi sun.
Today, I'm excited to show you 3 different varieties of coleus that absolutely shine in our southern heat. First up is Volcanica, and the name says it all. This variety erupts with fiery shades of red, orange, and deep burgundy, creating a tropical look that really pops. One thing I love about Volcanica is its ability to handle a bit more sun than traditional coleus, making it a great choice for those brighter spots around your home. Next, take a look at Kingswood Torch. This one grows more upright and brings deep, rich red tones that almost glow, especially in early morning or late afternoon light. Its leaves are medium to large in size, with a slightly elongated, ovate shape and gently serrated edges that add texture without appearing overly frilly. And finally, Lux Ruby Sparkle is all about that extra flair. The foliage has a rich ruby tone with a subtle shimmer that really catches the light. It's a great choice when you want something a little different, especially in decorative pots where you can show off that sparkle up close. Whether you're filling containers, brightening a porch, or adding interest to your landscape, coleus delivers dependable color that thrives in our southern landscape. I'm Eddie Smith, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a break right here, but don't go away. Coming up on Farm Week on our feature and encore, the reigning Mississippi Tree Farmer of the Year. The 2025 winner is unique. We did some research, and no one has heard of a tree farmer quite like this one. 1,300 acres total, about a third of it used for recreation. One of the premier sites of its type in the Southeast, drawing visitors from several states. Are you curious? The Tree Farmer of the Year coming up. Don't go away.
Mississippi, let's get moving. Join the Magnolia Moves Activity Challenge. The Mississippi State University Extension Service is offering this virtual challenge for individuals of any age or teams of family, colleagues, students, church members, or any other group. Join the 6-week April the 20th through May 31st challenge at no cost, and you'll set your own goals for becoming more active and eating healthier. You'll download the MoveSpring app or use the desktop version. Register for Magnolia Moves, and with automatic tracking, your movements and activities will be captured automatically to give you a clear, real-time view of your progress and achievements. Also, Extension will hold weekly prize drawings for participation across 5 different age categories. So join us and get fit and feel better, eat healthier, manage your weight, and exercise regularly. Magnolia Moves makes fitness accessible, practical, and enjoyable for everyone. Visit msuext.ms/Magnolia Moves to learn more, ask questions, and register today.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations, and their faith. I believe in intellectual freedom to search for and present the truth without bias and with courteous tolerance toward the views of others. I believe that education is a lifelong process and the greatest university is the home. That my success as a teacher is proportional to those qualities of mind and spirit that give me welcome entrance to the homes of the families I serve. Because I believe these things, I am an Extension professional.
Time for the market report. It's a WASDE week.
That's right, Mike, and we'll take a look at the report and its implications. But first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then this month's WASDE report. What did it say? And finally, Extension row crop economist Dr. Will Maples gives us the inside scoop on what it really told us. So, markets closed on the downswing with row crop split. Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, lumber, up $10, near a 2% increase from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, wheat, down nearly 9 cents. That's nearly a 3% decrease from the previous week. So this month's World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates report just dropped, and this one was unique in that it was the USDA's first real look into this year's crop estimates. In short, wheat, corn, rice, and cotton acres down, while soybean acres up, while livestock still rebuilding. Here's what it had to say. U.S. wheat supplies forecast lower from last year. Production down 424 million bushels due to less acreage and yield. Domestic use projected down while food use unchanged. Ending stocks projected 18% lower than last year. Season average farm price $6.50 per bushel. Global wheat production also down by nearly 3% compared to last year. Consumption also slightly lower along with trade. Projected ending stocks 275 million tons. U.S. corn crop projected down 6% due to less acreage, yield, and challenging weather. Total corn supplies down 2% to about 18 million bushels. Total use also down 2%, along with exports at 5%. Season average farm price $4.40 per bushel. Global corn production follows the U.S. trend, down about 17 million tons, but still at a record high. However, global consumption expected to rise slightly, and imports too as a result, ending stocks down by 19 million tons. U.S. rice production down 15% from last year due to less acreage, much like wheat and corn. Yield, however, is projected up by 188 pounds per acre. Total supplies down 10%, use also down slightly along with exports. Season average farm price $13.50 per hundredweight. Global rice production projected down 5 million tons while consumption higher by about 4 million tons. Global trade expected to increase by about 3 million tons. Ending stocks projected at about 193 million tons. U.S. soybean crop projected up 173 million bushels from last year due to increased acreage. Along with higher beginning stocks, total supplies 188 million bushels higher than last year. Crush and oil demand also higher. Season average farm price $11.40 per bushel. Global soybean production also up by about 14 million tons, mostly from the Americas. Exports projected to rise nearly 3 million tons, while ending stocks projected to lower slightly. U.S. beef production forecast lower due to less marketings and slaughter. Pork and poultry raised on higher slaughter and hatchery data, respectively. Egg production down slightly as well. Milk production forecast slightly up due to herd growth. Fat basis export forecast higher due to more shipments of cheese and butter. 2026 all milk price forecast $21.25 per hundredweight. U.S. cotton production projected down over 4% from last year due to less acreage. However, export projected up by 300,000 bales. As a result, ending stocks expected 500,000 bales lower. Season average farm price 73 cents per pound. Global cotton production following the U.S. trend, down by 6.6 million bales, which decreases supply by 2%. Trade also lower by 1% and ending stocks down 7%. So now you have the context. What's the real story? What are the real takeaways from this report? Extension row crop economist Dr. Will Maples says a lot of the information on acreage was already known, so the report wasn't that big of a surprise.
So this month, we got the May WASDE, which is really the first look at USDA's estimates for this 2026 crop year that's coming up. It's always one of the bigger WASDE reports we look towards each year. We kind of got neutral on corn in terms of market signals and slightly bearish soybeans and cotton. As we expected, corn production coming down a little bit because of the less acres, helping the ending stock situation a little bit better. Soybeans production's up, but exports is also, they're as of right now saying are going to be better than last year, which was a big story we talked a lot about over the 2025 crop year. So overall, some good news. Average farm price across all three commodities, corn, cotton, soybeans, is projected up this year. So a little bit better price environment heading into 2026 going forward. So a little bit positive news from what we've been talking about here over the last few months. So last year we had that record corn crop. It was a massive corn crop. We had to pull back acres to get supply and demand back towards equilibrium. So we pulled back corn acres because the price wasn't there in the spring to signal to plant corn, more corn versus soybeans. Market was saying planting soybeans, and that's what we've seen farmers respond with. It's really important too on this WASDE though to remember these are very early estimates. The acres estimates they're using are based off the prospective planting survey, which was just a survey of what farmers intended to plant, not what's actually been planted out there. And then on the global side, they do put out global estimates in this report, but you know, their Brazilian estimates for a crop that's not going to be planted till this winter. So it's a good kind of benchmark to get us started for the year, but the audience should keep in mind that these are very, very early estimates. The report really didn't have any surprises outside of wheat, especially that hardwood winter wheat crop in Oklahoma and Kansas is being decimated by drought right now. That crop's looking pretty rough. And we saw that show up in the report, so we did see some pretty good price action up higher around wheat. But currently, you know, reports can just be seen as a good benchmark, kind of place to kind of base going forward off of. But as a producer, thinking about marketing really needs to be tracking what futures are doing, kind of tracking crop progress and using those signals more so right now versus this WASDE report.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. Looks like this year's row crop acreage is a bit of a reversal from last year. Soybeans and corn ever changing out as the top row crop in their respective fields. Cotton steadily losing acres, but that makes it an interesting story as prices slowly rising. Mike?
Thanks, Zach. As the managing editor of Farm Week over the last 8 years, with Zach's help, we've done a lot of forestry stories, all of them interesting, all of them representative of the beautiful forests in Mississippi and the hard-working, talented people who help manage the 20 million acres of forested land in the state. But the encore story you're about to watch about a tree farm in Copiah County and the 2025 Tree Farmer of the Year is extraordinary. As the man who wrote the nomination for the award said to me off camera, this tree farm is way out of the box. Though they are all beautiful, every tree farm in Mississippi is just a little different than the next. But there's one outside of Hazelhurst, south of Jackson, that's a little more different than most. And that's because it's not just a tree farm, it's 1,300 acres of breathtaking land home to the Warren A. Hood Scout Reservation. Legions of young boys and girls experienced some of their happiest memories here. Many continue to come year after year because scouting is about the land, the scouting experience, and of course the outdoor education scouts get here. Ken Kercheval is the Scout Executive and the CEO of the Andrew Jackson Council, serving 22 counties in Mississippi. He and his team manage the Hood Scout Reservation.
Visionaries before me saw the potential, and so they invested greatly into it about 15 years ago and made it the premier camp in the state of Mississippi.
The camp itself has existed since the late 60s. It's named after Mr. Warren Hood, one of Mississippi's most prominent business leaders. He deeded the property over to the council. Today, the reservation attracts scouts from all over the southeast U.S. Year-round, scouts come here to have fun, learn about the land, and in the process, help create a revenue model that every year is helping the biggest scout camp in the state draw closer and closer to becoming completely self-sustaining.
We make sure that that we're good stewards of the land, and we teach our scouts about that too. So it just makes sense to grow trees, take care of them, and make it a revenue producing program that you can then put back into the program.
They do a lot of work as far as teaching the next generation the important parts of the tree farm system. So they've got the wood, the water, the wildlife, and the recreation. And it's important for the next generation to see that, and they get it all right here at one place.
And that's the uniqueness of this tree farm. Every scouting activity you can imagine on 450 acres of the 1,300, and at least a dozen merit badges related to forestry activities and using the land to its fullest extent.
Geocaching, orienteering, using the topography of camp that makes that very impressive. To have that piece of property up and down hills and over gullies and washouts and stuff like that. Everything, even though we're growing trees for revenue, we're utilizing that property as well with mountain bike trails, hiking trails, merit badge sites deeper into the woods. We have a ropes course and a zip line through the woods. So you go high and you learn low, and you can rock climb and you can rappel. Waterfront's amazing. We got dueling water slides into a 110-acre lake. We've got the blob, where you jump off a raised area and launch a friend out into the lake. Canoes, kayaks, paddle boards, ski boat. And then we use the trails and stuff throughout camp. All the property to go trail riding the last 2 days after they've learned all the safety features. So mountain boarding, mountain biking, about anything you can think of in the outdoors we're doing out there at camp.
Stephen Dickey nominated the Hood Scout Reservation for this year's Tree Farmer Award. He's the Region 3 Tree Farm Inspector and a consulting forester. If anyone understands the value of aligning scouting with tree farming, it's him.
We don't have very many of these scout camps in the state, and this one here in particular has got a lot of timber on it, a lot of forest management. I'm very familiar with it. I thought it'd be a great nomination for Tree Farmer of the Year, and very unusual because this is more of an education and leadership development for young people type camp. They use timber and timber management as part of that education. So it's quite an interesting little niche that we have here out in Copiah County.
Davis Lovelace, byproducts manager for Weyerhaeuser, who spent many summers at this camp himself when he was younger, is chair of the Mississippi Tree Farm Committee. He helped choose this year's winner.
Not only do they do great forest management, but they also use it as an educational tool to educate young boys and girls and adults as well on forest management and just general environmental education, and they do a great job of it. And they allow others to come in, such as Tree Farm or MFA, to help promote that amongst the youth.
Revenue-wise, it's a mixture. The council uses scouting fees and fundraisers for general operating capital, short-term expenses. And the tree farm itself?
What we use the tree farm for is maintaining the capital part of our camp. So the capital structure, so if you need a roof, if you need a new building, docks, new boats, new ATVs, those kind of things, that tree farm can provide all that. We got an amazing mixture out there. Me coming from Meridian, it was pine tree after pine tree after pine tree, but that's the one thing I love about Hood Scout Reservation is we have beautiful hardwoods, and then we have loblolly, and we actually have a really good stand of longleaf pine as well.
Bottom line, the Hood Scout Reservation is magical in so many ways. A thriving tree farm, it's literally an outdoor school, one that hopefully for many decades to come will cradle the generations.
There's a lot of great tree farmers out there, so for us to be able to get it and know that we're being recognized for what we're doing feels really good.
Congratulations to Ken Kercheval and the entire team at the Hood Scout Reservation in honor, well deserved, the 2025 Mississippi Tree Farmer of the Year. Well, next week, rebuilding the American clothing industry.
In the early days, Americans made their own clothes. Then 150 years ago, the apparel industry boomed. But more recently, a severe slide and a low point with COVID. Now, are things turning around? We'll visit two companies where hope springs eternal, thanks to a resurgence in Mississippi's prized crop, cotton.
Putting our pants back on, that's next time on Farm Week. Before we go, as promised, an epic senior prank at a high school in Nebraska with the complete approval of the school. Reporter Jeremy Roth with a quick answer to the age-old question, where's the beef?
Who hauls a bunch of livestock to a high school parking lot? A bunch of mischievous teens, that's who. News Channel Nebraska says a group of students at Valentine High School pulled out all the stops, recreating a full cattle corral, complete with heifers, fencing, and a shed, as an elaborate senior prank. The school's principal had no beef with the pranksters, saying they obtained permission prior to pulling it off. He says he supports senior pranks as long as they are safe and within limits. As far as gags go, it's not the craziest I've ever seen, but it's easily number 2.
Remember, if you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.